I think pretty much every investigation begins with a question, and every investigative journalist begins from a place of ignorance. This was not a catastrophic crash. This was a helicopter that went down. They all survived, and within seconds a fire started and they were trapped in that helicopter. So initially it was concern over the crew, and it transformed into why was there this fire after this crash? And most importantly, from sort of like a journalistic standpoint, is why do I remember seeing so many fires after other helicopter crashes? I started making a lot of phone calls, and I started contacting people who know a heck of a lot more than I do about helicopters. I didn't really know anything about helicopter fuel systems. I'd been in a helicopter once in my life. So you call people who are smarter than you, and you ask them hopefully intelligent questions and sort of get to the bottom of what may or may not have happened. And then it would become, I've got this hunch. I have this feeling like this might have happened and that there might be a problem with the fuel system. Is I would call people and say, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me what my gut is telling me is wrong. And it turned out my hunch was actually right, that this was a problem, and this was a well-known problem. The pilot in this particular helicopter that crashed, Pat Mahaney, he would tell his wife all the time his biggest fear was to die in a fire. He knew about this problem and was scared of it. The question is, why do these helicopter crashes continue to involve fires? And the answer is because their fuel systems are old and antiquated. This story has involved us traveling all over the country. We went to Phoenix to witness a drop test of a fuel system. We went to DC multiple times to challenge legislators. The FAA refused to do an interview with us for months.
How much more studying, how much more time does the FAA need to address this issue?
And so we went to Wisconsin to ask a question of the head of the FAA about this very subject that they didn't want to answer. I told people early on that this wasn't just a story for me that I would cover once and be done with it. I said, and I gave them this pledge, I said, I will see this through. I didn't think it would take 3.5 years to see this through.
The yeas are 93. The nays are 6. The motion to concur is agreed to.
The legislation that was just passed by Congress and signed into law by the President is legislation that mandates from now on, every new helicopter that is built, that comes off the line, that is in use in the United States, it has to have a crash-resistant fuel system on board. We were told early on that we didn't know what we were talking about. We were told early on by some people very close to this that we shouldn't get involved. This has been the most emotionally challenging story I've ever covered. Because of that, because we took a lot of criticism. But in the end, as I said to them, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm not trying to make this any more difficult on you. I'm just trying to identify a problem. What we put on the air, particularly the video of the crash, was really difficult for a lot of people to witness. That video, in 10 seconds, did more than I've done in 3.5 years of reporting on this subject. Because in 10 seconds, you see the problem. In 10 seconds, you see fuel pouring out, and you see a fire starting, and you know that 3 people are still inside. You can't watch that video and say there's not a problem. You can't watch fuel pouring out of that helicopter seconds after impact and say there's no problem. You just can't. As difficult of a decision as it was for us to air that video, I look back on it, I think it's the best decision we made. As much as people didn't want us to air that, and I get it, I understand it. I heard from a lot of folks, I heard from a lot of people And I understand it. But I don't think this law changes if that video doesn't exist. Patrick Mahaney was killed in this fire. Dave Repsher was burned over most of his body in this fire. Matt Bowe, another flight nurse, was injured in this crash as well. Somewhere along the line, all these lives were changed by this one fire. And as difficult as it was on us, it was much more challenging for them to have to go through. We sort of witness it and document it. They actually live it. And I always felt like we owed them something more than just sending them off in a helicopter that has a plastic fuel tank in it. I felt like we owe them more than that, right?